Hey everybody, I'm Samurai Sam, and today I'm going to start going through and showing you all the games in my Nintendo DS collection. DS is legitimately one of my favorite platforms. It's got such a great library, it was just such a unique and fun and interesting handheld when it first came out. And of course, it was before the time where smartphones and mobile gaming was the norm. So like everybody and their mother had DS, and it was a wonderful time, and I love the system very much. So we're going to start with like a whole series of games here. We've got the Ace Attorney series, starting with Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney here, and then you see we've got Justice for All here, and then Trials and Tribulations, and we've got Apollo Justice here, and we've got Ace Attorney Investigations, and then finally we have Ace Attorney Investigations 2, or maybe I should say Yakuten Kenji 2 because this is a Japanese release. So Ace Attorney is a wonderful series. They are basically what you would call visual novels, and they were the first games of that type I had ever played to that point. So the main idea to play the game is really for the story rather than gameplay. That being said, there is some interesting and fun gameplay in Ace Attorney. Basically, there are these courtroom scenes where like the witness will give a testimony about the murder, and like you have to point out contradictions based on like the evidence you have available, and find out what actually happened, and that's pretty cool. But the main reason you play Phoenix Wright though is like, well, for one thing, the characters. There's a lot of very charming, unique, memorable characters in the Ace Attorney games, and a lot of funny moments and funny lines, and also some legitimately really cool murder mysteries, and really good story overall. There's kind of an overarching story. One thing that kind of sucks is that for the American releases, they took out the numbers in the titles, which is really stupid because it's really important to play these games in order because, story and stuff. So that's kind of dumb, but like after the first one came out, like we weren't sure if we were going to get any of the other ones. So like I'm just glad that we got them all, except for we didn't get Ace Attorney Investigations 2, obviously, because that's in Japanese, as you saw, but there is a fan translation, so I get to play it, and that's awesome. I like all the games. I think my favorite would be probably Trials and Tribulations. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about that. I mean, I can make my own video about it, but like, they're all solid games. Yeah, that's all you need to know. Just, I mean, play them if what I just described to you sounds fun, and you somehow haven't played them yet, because they are very popular. You've probably played them if you're interested. But if it sounds fun and you haven't tried them, then try them. They're fun. Advance Wars Dual Strike. This is honestly like one of my favorite games ever. Like, period. So Advance Wars 1 and 2 on the GBA were really terrific games. Fun strategy games, like kind of simple to understand fairly, but like also really deep and complex, and like a lot of depth and a lot of like possibilities, a lot of different ways to play, and like great multiplayer as well. And Dual Strike just takes everything great about the first two games and just like supersize. There's so much content in this game. They add dual, like you can control like two commanding officers, COs, and like swap between them. So like one CO's power is active when they're in command, and then you swap to the other one who's like good at a different thing, and so then suddenly you have them. And then you can build up your special meter and do a super cool, super powerful, tag power, where you literally take 2 turns and activate the powers, and it can completely turn the tide of the battle, and it's amazing. And there's so much content in this game, and like you can level up your COs and equip like skills to them and make them stronger and stuff, and like just there's so much to do, and it's really, really, really great. Like if you like strategy games at all, like play this. Like, what are you nuts? I guess one thing notable is that unfortunately this game never had online play because it launched just like a few months before the DS Online service went up, so that's kind of unfortunate. Here we have Advance Wars Days of Ruin, which is unfortunately the last Advance Wars game we ever got for some reason. This one is actually quite different from the first 3 games in the series. It takes a more like dark and kind of gritty kind of art style and theme and setting, whereas the first 3 were a little cartoony, and it changes up the gameplay quite a bit. Like, well, I mean, the game is basically like on a basic level pretty much the same, but like there's a lot of units that are different. And the way commanding officers work, COs, that's different as well. Like you can deploy them in an individual unit, and there's like a zone of effect where like any units within their zone of effect like has a special bonus or something, and that's pretty cool. And this one did have online play. Unfortunately, the online play was not the best in the world for a couple of reasons. Like as far as going to like play random strangers, you could do that, but it sucked for a couple of reasons. like the maps were like really unfair or whatnot. Yeah, it's still a great game. It's not as good as Dual Strike, but it's totally worth playing and highly recommended if you like that kind of game. Why do I even have this? Backyard Baseball '09. I think I probably only still have this because David Ortiz is on the cover, and I'm a Red Sox fan, and I love David Ortiz. But like, I'm probably never going to play this. I should probably give it to someone. I don't know. I don't know why this is still here. Bleach: The Blade of Fate. I've never like watched Bleach or like read the manga, but apparently this is a pretty good game, so I thought I'd try it. I actually remember this like first came out like years ago, and like I thought about playing it, and like I didn't right then. I got it later, and I still haven't like sat down to play it. So yeah, I should probably do that. There's also a sequel which I don't have yet. I guess I'll play the first one and see if I want to play the sequel. Here's Break 'Em All. This is one of the first DS games I ever got, and this is basically an Arkanoid clone, and it works pretty well because the touchscreen can like slide the piece as fast as you need it to or slow, and that works pretty well. I wasn't like blown away by this or anything. Like I don't know, it didn't seem like the best Arkanoid game ever, but yeah, it was pretty serviceable for what it is. And we've got a few Castlevania games, starting with Dawn of Sorrow. This is the follow-up to Aria of Sorrow, of course, and delivers quite well in that regard. It keeps the same like soul system as the first game, where like you defeat an enemy and it may drop a soul that you can use and equip to your character and have a special ability. And yeah, it's very much like that game, and pretty much just as good. I think I liked Aria a little more, but if I replayed them today, I might have a different opinion. I'm not sure. It actually took me years to beat this game. I got stuck on one of the last bosses, the second to last boss or something, and I think I literally went like 7 years without beating him, and then I decided to pick up the game like that many years later and actually finished it. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I remember this is like one of the bigger early hits of the DS. I remember when this came out, it was a really big deal, and it's a very good game. Obviously, if you like Castlevania, and especially the Symphony variety, you'll like that. Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. In this one, you control a chick who uses like magic weapons, I want to say glyph system. She uses something called glyphs, and so she doesn't actually have her own whip or sword or what have you. She has like glyphs, and I'm trying to remember like all the like specifics on how this game like stands apart from the rest of them, and like I don't think there's like too much, at least not that's sticking out in my mind, but it's a really solid game. I definitely had a lot of fun with this one, and if you like Castlevania, what are you waiting for? You should play it. And finally, there's Portrait of Ruin, which is a pretty cool game. One thing to note about this one is that there's like a hub village with like villagers that have, you can like rescue them as the game goes along and like fill up the village, if I remember right, and like they have different side quests and stuff you can do, I think. And I think this game is a little bit more divided up compared to the previous games. My nose is so itchy today. Like as in terms of like instead of like having one really huge level, I think this one's a little more chopped up into a bunch of separate areas, more so than the other Symphony of the Night era Castlevanias. That doesn't ruin the game for me. I think it's still a really good game, and I recommend you play it. And then Chrono Trigger, which is obviously a fantastic game, very well known on the Super Nintendo, and a lot of people stand by this DS version as the best version. That's because it has some new content. It has a bonus dungeon. It has like the FMVs from the PlayStation release, it's got like a new translation, like a new script, and some people prefer the new script. And it's got some quality of life features that you might like that weren't in the original. Personally, though, there's one big problem with this version that keeps me from saying that, and that is the music just isn't as good as I feel like it should be. It's definitely not even close to being as good as the Super Nintendo music, and that's kind of a big deal because like one of the things I think of when I think of Chrono Trigger is the music. It's like iconic, amazing, incredible music, and it's not quite up to snuff in this version. So it's not my version of choice, but it is a very good version. Color Cross. This is a Picross game. You might know what Picross is. I remember when like Picross was still seemingly very obscure back in like 2005, and like I felt like I was like the only person who knew about it. Now it seems like it's a lot more popular. But this has like a little interesting twist on Picross, whereas like there's different colored numbers. Like I don't know if you can see on the back, but like there's on the squares that indicate like where to chisel. Like there's different colors, so you have to like use different like types of colors to etch out the puzzle and figure it out. I don't know how good it is in practice. I think it's kind of a neat concept. At some point, I'll spend more time with the game and really like be able to review it. But if you like Picross, it's something that's a little different. I'd say it's worth a shot. Contra 4. Honestly, I haven't played this one too much. I've tried it a couple times, and surprise, surprise, it's pretty hard. But it's run and gun Contra. It's 2 screens, so like you have to look above you as well as on the touchscreen, like where you're probably normally standing. And it seems pretty cool. I tried playing this with a friend, and I kept getting like error communication problems that like kept interrupting our game and ruining it. So I don't know if that was like a problem with the game or a problem with one of our DSs. That was kind of weird when that happened. But yeah, I mean, if you like Contra, this is probably worth a shot. Here's an obscure game. It's called Crockett Ds, and I don't remember the title because it's Japanese. But this was a rather early DS title, and like one of the first ones I imported. And basically, it's like a strategy RPG, only like when you go to attack somebody, it switches to like a 2D, almost like a fighting game kind of a screen where you actually fight the opponent. And like any opponents and allies who are next to you and the enemy when you fight will be there. So that's kind of a neat concept. The main problem with this game is that like the enemies don't really like, the AI kind of sucks. Like they don't gang up on you, like, and they'll like fight you one at a time or something. If I'm remembering right, it's been years since I like really spent time with this game, and there's no translation patch or anything. You probably don't need the translation patch to play this game, but like, yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, I thought the gameplay concept was kind of neat, and I guess that's why I got it and still have it in my collection. Maybe I'll try it some more sometime. I never actually beat it. Densetsu no Starfy 4, the legendary Starfy 4. Yeah, this is like kind of like the first three on the GBA that I talked to you about. You know, like you're this little starfish thing, and there seems to be a lot of like charm with the characters and stuff. But you know, it's Japanese, so I couldn't tell. But I mean, you don't need to like read the dialogue to actually play the levels, and it's all right. It's not like a platformer that's going to blow you away or anything. At least it didn't for me. And I mean, it's serviceable, but like, you know, I would say you don't have to go out of your way to play this one. It's okay. If you played the American one, you liked it, then maybe check it out. DK Jungle Climber. So fun fact, I just recently got this, and it was the third time that I tried to buy this game, because the first two times I bought it, I got bootlegs, and it was the same kind of bootleg. So this is like secretly one of the most bootlegged DS games. So if you want to get it for yourself, then you know, pay attention to like what you're actually buying and make sure it's the legit copy. I can't say too much about this one. It's the sequel to DK King of Swing on the GBA, and it's got kind of a unique control scheme with the way DK grabs onto things. And it seems like it might be good. I don't know. I haven't actually played it myself. I just got it. Here's Dragon Ball Z Attack of the Saiyans, which is a game where, well, I mean, obviously it's a Dragon Ball Z game that tells the Saiyan saga when Vegeta and Nappa come invade Earth. But this is like kind of done in the style of an RPG, which is kind of neat. And I've heard it's a good game, and I haven't really spent time with it myself, so I can't give my own opinion. But like, I intend to, because it seems cool. Here's Dragon Quest IV. This is the first Dragon Quest game I ever played all the way through. It's a remake of the famous NES game. And I thought it was all right. Like, the thing with this game is you start out the game like jumping between a whole bunch of different characters that are like, you know, very distinct from each other. Like one of them you play as shopkeeper, and you actually like can like stand in his shop and like sell things to people. And like, you know, and then like after several hours or so, the characters all meet up together, and then that's your real adventure starting right there. And that's kind of cool. Otherwise, I mean, it's a pretty standard RPG. It didn't really stand out to be that much. I don't know, people really love Dragon Quest and like really love the charm of it. I like enjoy it, but I kind of like don't get it, I guess. And now we have Dragon Quest V. Now this is like kind of the holy grail of Dragon Quests in terms of, well, maybe holy grail is the wrong terminology, but like this is the Dragon Quest that is considered by many to be like the best in the series, and one is held up in very high regard. And I was not that impressed by it. Like it's clearly a very like good game. Like it's not bad or anything, but I didn't see the magic in it that most people see. And there was something that I thought was very disappointing, that I can't quite explain why, because you know, you're delving into spoiler territory. But one thing that's cool about this game is that at one point you get to choose one of 3 women to marry, and that's like a really cool concept, because like, you know, they're all different, they're different characters, they have different abilities and stuff. But I was disappointed with how it played out, and that's all I can say about that. But yeah, like after playing this one, this was still like several years ago. I'm not like too enthused about like playing a lot more Dragon Quest games, because I just feel like I don't. For some reason, there's something about the series that doesn't strike a chord with me that does for like obviously the mainline fans. So I don't know what that is. I used to have Dragon Quest 6 and Dragon Quest 9, but I gave them to my sister because like I just don't think I'm ever going to spend time with them, and they're not. I don't think they're considered as good as those 2 games. So like, why would I? Here's a different kind of Dragon Quest game. It's Dragon Quest Heroes Rocket Slime. I actually imported this from Japan when it first came out, because I thought there was no way it would come out in America, and boy, I was wrong. So I had to like, you know, sell that one and get this one. So this is more of like a kind of a Zelda-ish kind of game. Maybe I don't even know if that's like a good comparison, but one thing that's cool about this game is the tank battles, where like yeah, you control huge tanks, and you like try and kill the. You can like try and kill the other tank or destroy the other tank by like just throwing things at it, or you can literally like invade their tank and try to like destroy it from the inside out and stuff. And that's pretty cool. And like the tanks all have really funny punny names, which is awesome. And there was one point where I kind of got stuck in this game, and I never went back for some reason. So like I do want to finish it someday. I do like this game. And you know, if you like a little quirky Zelda spin-offy kind of games, even if you're not really that into Dragon Quest, I'd say give it a shot. I think it's kind of cool. Drawn to Life. This is a game where it's like a side scroller. Only you can like actually like draw your weapons, which is kind of cool. And I haven't really played it that much, so I can't say much more than that. Obviously, I got it for really cheap, as you can see right there. Ooh, here's a good one. So this is Elite Beat Agents, and it's kind of unfortunate that I'm coming to this one first before Owendon. But basically, Owendon is a game that I'm going to get to in the next video probably. They're rhythm games, and this is basically Owendon was probably a little too Japanese to be localized in America. So this is basically a sequel, I guess you would say, a spin-off. It's not a port by any means of Owendon. It's like kind of like a reimagining, or like just like I said, a sequel or spin-off, kind of made more for Western audiences. So you got the same kind of gameplay, and like, you know, aesthetically, a lot of the things are very similar, but like it's very clearly distinct. Yeah, it's really good. Like, I mean, I love Owendon largely because of the gameplay, and this has like the same gameplay. So yeah, it's really fun touchscreen gameplay. You use the stylus and you hit things. You press the notes as they come up, and like you slide sometimes, and you make circles sometimes, and it's a lot of fun. And it's got like a lot of like really quirky, silly storylines that you're of the characters that you are trying to cheer on and help out. And yeah, I mean, if you like rhythm games, you absolutely have to try this game and the Owendon games. I will talk more about Owendon when we get there. So now we got 3 games in a series here. It's the 3 Etrian Odyssey games, and I almost dropped it. Etrian Odyssey 1, 2, and 3. Having trouble holding them all at once. But basically, these games, how do I describe them? They're kind of like Japanese RPGs, but they're different. Because, like, they're first-person dungeon crawling, like labyrinth crawling games. And there's actually not much emphasis on story in these games, unlike a lot of JRPGs. This is more like a dungeon crawler. That's the best way to say it. Like, and you on the bottom screen, you actually map out the dungeons that you're traversing as you're going through them. So, you know, some people might actually like being a cartographer. And there's a bunch of different classes of characters you can add to your party. Like, there's a lot of customization with how you build your party. And I think this game's pretty challenging, too. I haven't really played these games. So actually what happened was I played Persona Q and Q2, which I'll get to in the 3DS video. And I really like those games. And those games are literally like the formula of Etrian Odyssey made with Persona characters. And so I'm like, well, I like that, so I should get the Etrian Odyssey games. I still haven't actually sat down to play an Etrian Odyssey game. But, you know, I intend to, because, you know, I like that gameplay formula. It's cool. Here we have Final Fantasy III. So this was a big deal when it came out, because this was the first like official release of Final Fantasy III in outside of Japan. And this is Final Fantasy III was originally an NES game, a Famicom game, not in America, obviously. And so this was a very spruced up remake. They actually give the characters like names and a backstory and stuff, which they didn't have in the original. And they just kind of like fine tuned a lot of things in this game. And I had a lot of fun with it. It does show its age a little bit. It can be pretty difficult sometimes. But it has a job system where like your characters can change jobs, like, you know, black mage or warrior monk, you know, all kinds of different stuff, and like, you know, learn abilities as you use the different jobs. And it's not as good as Final Fantasy V in that regard, but it is a good game, and I recommend it. Just, you know, be in for, if you've never played like an old school RPG before, like before Super Nintendo era, be ready for like a challenge and like kind of have a little bit of a hard time with it, but it is fun. I recommend it. And then Final Fantasy IV. This is a remake of well, obviously Final Fantasy IV on the Super Nintendo. And Final Fantasy IV is actually a pretty hard game originally. Like the American Super Nintendo version is really, really easy, but the original game was actually really, really hard. And I believe this one has the difficulty of the original. So this one is also quite challenging. This one has much more of like a strong narrative and characters than like the first 3 games, which is interesting. I've played a little bit of this one. It seems like a cool little remake. It's got some like features and quality of life stuff that's kind of neat. I tend to play more of it, but, you know, I just sampled it basically for an hour or 2. At some point I will play it some more. Here's Final Fantasy Tactics Aid 2 Grimoire of the Rift. And you know, for the Final Fantasy Tactics games, I've talked about them before. They're kind of neat, and this one I played for a while, and I said they're kind of neat. That's kind of a weird thing to say, just kind of like, I don't know. A lot of people really love the Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy Tactics 1 particularly gets an awful lot of love. A lot less people like Advance. I really liked Advance. I played this one, and it seemed a little samey to me. Like, I didn't really feel like pressing onward with it. But, you know, if you liked Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, you're probably going to like this one too. It's not that different. I don't really remember anything about the story, I'm going to be honest. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. So this is a remake of Fire Emblem 1. Actually, the second time that Nintendo did a remake of Fire Emblem 1, which is kind of weird. This is the first time, like, a Fire Emblem game starring Marth from Smash Brothers actually came out in America, so that's pretty cool. And this one, like, completely changes the typical art style of Fire Emblem, which is kind of neat. And they try to, like, do some different stuff with, like, how you unlock, like, the guidance chapters and stuff. Sometimes you have to let people die, which is weird. This one actually is kind of a controversial entry. A lot of people don't really like this one. And I can kind of understand why. Like, there's no support conversations, and so there's less character development, and the characters aren't as interesting. But, I mean, the gameplay, I think, is fine. It's, you know, it's good quality Fire Emblem. It's kind of updated, like, with the, you know, some of the gameplay features, such as the weapon triangle, that weren't there for the original Fire Emblem, or the first remake of the original Fire Emblem. So, I mean, like, yeah, if you really want to, like, get into the Fire Emblem as a series, if you enjoy the gameplay and the challenge of it, I would say play this one. If you play Fire Emblem like mostly for the characters, then I'd say probably skip it. This one, though, so this is Fire Emblem Heroes of Light and Shadow, or like Shinmonsho no Nazo, which is like New Mystery of the Emblem. This one is a fan translation, and this is a sequel to Shadow Dragon, and it has the same art style and everything. But this one, they went the extra mile and made this like a really excellent game. They like took like the things you would complain about in Shadow Dragon and like remedied them. Like, they actually added support conversations for this one. This is the first Fire Emblem game that gave you like a playable, customizable avatar character, which is really cool. So you can design your own main character and make them whatever class you want. And the gameplay is just really, really good. I had so much fun playing this game. This is actually one of my favorite games of all time. I'm not going to lie. I'm not exaggerating. I love Fire Emblem, and this is like one of the best ones for sure. So even if you didn't like Shadow Dragon, check this one out, because this one is really, really good. I actually played through hard mode right after beating normal mode, and I like almost never do that. I pretty much never like replay any kind of RPG or strategy RPG after I first beat it, but I did it for that game because it's that good. Freshly picked Tingles Rosy Roopy Land. This is a European DS game, which comes in like the thicker Europe cases that are partially transparent. This is a really weird Zelda spin-off game, where you play as Tingle, and everything in this game revolves around money. And, like, you need advice for someone, you need to pay money. Like, you need to hire a bodyguard because Tingle sucks at fighting, you need to pay money. Like, everything's about money. And this game's very quirky and funny, and as one of the coolest final boss encounters of any game ever. There's definitely a lot of flaws in this game. Like, there's not enough music, which is kind of weird, because Zelda has a lot of, like, really iconic music, and, like, doesn't that just give you a whole bunch of stuff to draw off of? But, and, like, sometimes progression can be either obtuse or just kind of annoying. And like just, you know, too rupee intensive. So like sometimes I would just like reset. You're gonna do a lot of like resetting the game because you get screwed out of rupees and stuff like that. But you know, if you like the quirky weirdness that this game kind of brings, or if that seems appealing to you, and you know, if you like Zelda and you want to play the spin-offs, check this one out. And the final boss makes it all worth it, even if like you don't totally love the game. Here's oh yeah, this is a Goemon game. I don't remember the exact title, but this is unfortunately the last Mystical Ninja Goemon game that was ever made, and can't say too much about that. I'm kind of waiting for this one to get a translation patch before I really dive into it. I've heard it's actually quite good, and I think this is a 3D game, kind of like the Mystical Ninja starring Goemon on 64. I don't really know though. At some point, I will play it, even if it doesn't get a patch. I'll find a way to play it. Here's Game Center CX2. This is a sequel to a game called Retro Game Challenge, which I will get to in like the next video. So I'm actually not going to really talk about this one yet, and I haven't really played it anyway. So yeah, like I'm sure this game is very much like the first one, and I will explain what the first one is like when I get there. This one does have a translation patch, though, if you were wondering. Here is Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. This is from the same people who made Ace Attorney, I think, or at least the same company. It's a Capcom game. But this one is also very much story-driven, but it's not an Ace Attorney game at all. This is a really cool game where basically you're dead, and you can use like superpowers to like go back in time to like a minute before somebody dies, and like manipulate the environment and stuff in order to prevent them from dying. And it provides some really cool gameplay that really requires you to use your brain. And it's got a really excellent story. The story in this game is great, and the characters are great. And this is just a really well made game. And like, you know, if you like solving puzzles, if you like good stories, then you absolutely have to play this game. It's a must play. Golden Sun Dark Dawn. So this is the sequel to Golden Sun 1 and 2. If this had come out, like, if this was like a launch title from the DS, I would have like been all over it because like I was really into Golden Sun 1 and 2. But this came out like quite a while later, and unfortunately, like 2010. Unfortunately, my Golden Sun interest had, well, at least like my Golden Sun like fire had kind of just died down by then. I do still intend to play this one, but you know, I'm going to be kind of on the fence as to whether I replay the first two first and then play this one or what. But also another thing to say about this one is that it's also considered not as good as the first two, I don't think. But you know, I do like the Golden Sun games. They're RPGs, they're Japanese RPGs, but there's a lot of puzzle solving involved with them. It's not like you're just romping through dungeons. You like can like do all kinds of stuff to like manipulate things. You have all kinds of powers called synergy, which is cool. I'm assuming this game has that kind of stuff, and I can't really speak to like the pros and cons because again, I haven't really played through it yet, but I will sometime. Henry Hatsworth and the Puzzling Adventure. This is like a platformer, but also has like a bunch of puzzle elements, I think, and it seems very charming. Like the characters have a rather funny speech. Their speech sound effects are funny, is what I'm trying to say, and yeah, this is one I definitely intend to play. I picked it up for cheap, and seems cool. I can't really say much else about it though. Here's Hotel Dusk Room 215. This is another one of those kind of visual novel style games. And this one's got a very distinct art style where the characters are like basically pencil sketches and they're kind of animated that way. And you go to this hotel and like all kinds of crazy stuff happens and there's like a creepy backstory to the hotel and stuff or whatever, if I'm remembering right. It's been years. But it's a good game. It's not one of the best visual novels I've played. It's got some issues. It's got some pacing problems. But I definitely enjoyed this one. There's some cool mysteries to solve and stuff. Yeah, I'd say check it out if you like the genre. Here is Tingles Balloon Trip of Love. So this is kind of like I guess a follow-up to Tingles Rosy Roopy Land. It has kind of the same graphical style and like kind of the same kind of logo. But this is actually a very different kind of game. It's actually like more like a point-and-click PC-style adventure game. And, you know, kind of like Monkey Island or something like that. And this one has an English patch, and it is quite... How do I want to sum this game up? It's very bizarre and unique and quirky and fun. It's also quite flawed. It's got, you know, pacing issues. I've been saying that a lot in this video. But yeah, this game sometimes feels like it doesn't respect the player's time. But there's some moments in this game where it's like, this is so memorable and fun. Like just it makes me smile. But yeah, that's what kept me going. Is that like I just never knew what I was going to see next, and it was great. But you know, this game is definitely not like one of the best point-and-click games ever. But you know, if you like Tingle and his quirkiness, it is one that is worth a shot. Here's Izuna: Legend of the Unemployed Ninja. This is like a roguelike kind of mystery dungeon game where like, you know, the dungeons are randomly generated. One thing that I don't really like about this one is that it's one of those where you keep your level up. So rather than like having to conquer the dungeon in one go, you can basically grind in this one until you're so strong that you just destroy everything. And I mean, that doesn't mean this is a bad game, but like it's just not what I want in a roguelike. I want one where like I really have to like master the game rather than just grind to the end. I will say that the characters in the dialogue seem very funny and cool and unique. Like Izuna, you can just see there on the back that, you know, she's a humorous character. And you know, if you like that, you'll probably like this game, but I don't know if... I might not keep it. I don't know. I'll maybe play it some more. I played like a couple hours of it, but like I don't know if it's going to be my thing. Then Izuna 2, can't say too much more about it. I think it's kind of more of the same. And then we have Jump Superstars. This is one of the early DS imports that caught people's attention. This is a kind of Smash Brothers-ish, a crossover fighting game between Shonen Jump characters. So, like, you know, you got your Dragon Ball, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Naruto. You don't have to, like, be a fan of those properties to enjoy this game, because it's a fun and unique little fighting game, and you can have, like, stuff on the touchscreen that represents different characters that you can swap between, and different power-ups and different, like, attacks. And it's very unique and fun. But then they made Jump Ultimate Stars, which is basically everything good about the first game and just completely supersized. Like, there's honestly not that much of a reason to go back to Superstars anymore now that this one exists. And yeah, this game is really good. And again, you don't have to be like into Jump, Shonen Jump, or anime or anything at all to like enjoy this game because it's just a solid game. Recommend it. I recommend it. I recommend it. I recommend it. Can't speak. Yeah, I recommend it. If you like fighting games, just like if you like fighting games in general, give it a shot. Kirby Canvas Curse. This is another very early DS game and one that like entirely uses touchscreen control. It's not like other Kirby games. Use the stylus to like propel Kirby forward, and you draw lines to like. He's a ball. He's stuck in his ball shape, and you can draw lines to like move him and stuff. And it's pretty cool. I enjoyed it. Didn't blow me away, but like it's a fun and different game that uses the DS touchscreen well. Kirby Mass Attack. This is one of the few Kirby games I haven't beaten. Yeah, you can like summon like a whole bunch of Kirbys and stuff. Otherwise, it's like a basic Kirby game, I think. We got Kirby Squeak Squad. This is a decent Kirby game. Not terribly unique. It's got like some abilities that you don't normally see, but like, yeah, it's a Kirby game. It's solid. I did beat it. Like I played through it. I don't really have that much unique to say about it. It's just a Kirby game. And then Kirby Superstar Ultra. This is a kind of a port/remake of Kirby Superstar on the Super Nintendo. I don't love Superstar as much as most other people do, but it is still a good game, and they add a couple new things to this one. And there's like a harder arena mode and stuff. The music is a little worse, which tends to happen for some reason for Super Nintendo to DS ports. I mean, it's a Kirby game. It's good. Like, I don't think there's ever been like a bad Kirby game. Has there? Maybe I'm wrong, but like I can't remember one off the top of my head. Konami Classic Series arcade hits. I mean, I always like just have to get any arcade compilation that is out there pretty much. And this one has the arcade version of Contra on here, arcade version of Gradius, Time Pilot, Track and Field Russian Attack. Seems like a pretty cool lineup. I'm not sure like how much this particular collection is worth going back to. Yeah, at some point, I'll check these ports out and see if like I really like this particular version. Obviously, it's good if you want them portable. Now here's Last Window, The Secret of Cape West. This is a sequel to Hotel Dusk, which I just talked about. And this one, for some reason, only came out in Europe and Japan, obviously. And that's unfortunate. But this one is definitely better than Hotel Dusk. The story is more about the protagonist, which I like. I prefer, like, visual novels to have stories that really involve the protagonist. And I just found everything about it just to be a little bit better. It's like more well-made, more interesting storyline. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one quite a bit. And if you like visual novels, I would say check out Hotel Dusk and then that game. And I think this is going to be the last one for this video. We've got Lufia Curse of the Sinistrals. This is basically Lufia 2 on Super Nintendo reimagined to be more of like an adventure, like action game rather than like a Japanese RPG. And I can't really say too much to like how good it is. I've heard it's a good game. And I'm definitely interested in checking it out. I definitely really enjoy Lufia 2 on Super Nintendo. And obviously this is a very different sort of game, but it has like the same characters and the same story. And I am very interested in seeing like how they did with this kind of reimagining. We'll see someday. I have not done it yet. But okay, that is the first row of my 2 rows of DS games. So stay tuned. Next video is going to be the bottom row. And hope you will enjoy that one as much as you enjoyed this one. Assuming you enjoyed this one. You did enjoy this one, right? If you're here all the way to the end, you probably enjoyed this one. So there you go. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day.